Book 3, The Second Meeting. In this book, we will see how things unfold now that Kazumi knows of Project Flower and that Shoto had been the undercover hero assigned to her. On the first week of April, Class 1A returned to school as second-year Hero Corps students under Class 2A. The school also retained the dorm system. All for One was being held at Tartarus, the most heavily secured prison, but the League of Villains are still at large. And All Might, he had officially retired and was now a full-time teacher at UA. A day before school started, Shoto found his fellow classmates standing and waiting for someone at the front gate. Then he heard Kaminari say, "You're Kachin's best friend?" He was referring to a blue-haired girl named Mizuyo Takeda, a first-year student. She was very cheerful and was quite excited to see everyone in person after just seeing them in TV during the UA tournament. And when she complimented all of them of their skills during the tournament, nobody was able to reply, so he said,
"Thank you."
"Bakugo beat me though, on the one-on-one battle." Not long after that, Bakugo called her so they could start fixing her dorm room. As he watched them leave, he cannot help but think of Kazumi. Was she the closest to a best friend he could call? He clenched his fist and answered his own question with a rebellious hard no.
Don't be ridiculous.
During the vacation, he tired himself to training his body and mind. He trained non-stop until he was so exhausted that all that was left for him was to sleep. Not once did he visit Kazumi in Recovery Girls' infirmary. Project Flower is done. Burnin gave him the updated report that the information he provided was enough to complete the Phase 1 status. Phase 2 mission was now transferred to a National Hero Commission. And Shoto, with how things turned out, Principal Nezu will invite Sugimoto to stay at UA. And to gain her full cooperation, she will also be briefed of Project Flower. Burnin updated him. He also asked if a representative from our agency would like to be present during the briefing. Your father said there is no need. But I'm thinking, you might want to. She said it with a bit of uncertainty in her voice. Shoto had no plans of joining anyway, so he instantly replied, no. But Burnin continued, "Look, I may have been too hard on you last time, and with all the changes, this project might still be important to you."
I assure you that it's not.
Shoto cut her. Burnin didn't continue as Shoto sounded very firm with his decision. She was just a mission, he reminded himself. Don't forget that, Shoto. The only reason you feel this way was because you were forced to befriend her. It was unavoidable to think that she was someone you would call a close friend. And if it felt that way, that means you were successful with your undercover work. Do not get confused. You were handpicked for Project Flower because Principal Nezu had confidence in you, and he knew your ability in being objective and impartial. He knew you would not get attached. You should not be blurred with his feelings for Kazumi. You should trust Principal Nezu's judgment about you, that you are indeed neutral to a mission, a mark of a true future pro-hero. Those feelings were just reels and a lingering aftermath of a mission, a post-mortem that will eventually go away. You have to keep your eyes focused on being number one. If you can't even focus on small missions like this, then how could you surpass Endeavor? Todoroki-kun?
Are you all right?
Ida tapped his shoulder.
If you ever want to talk or anything, just let me know. We're friends, right?
The two of them had become good friends after their encounter with Stain, the hero killer. But there were still things that he just can't talk about with him. Ironically, it was still with Kazumi he'd still most comfortable with talking to, even on things concerning her. I'm fine. Thank you, Ida, he said, then walked away. Kazumi looked at herself in the mirror. Aside from minor scars, she looked fine after the fire broke in their alley. It happened too fast. She was not able to grab anything. She thought of her metal box and felt really sad. It contained her life core memories. It was the only thing she could bring with her whenever she moved from cities to cities. But now, everything was burnt. She tried running to safety, but she lost her footing and got stuck on the burnt woods that fell from the roof. And at the same time, she lost consciousness as she inhaled so much smoke. The next thing she knew, she woke up to this small lady kissing her. But before she could say anything, she fell unconscious again. After a week of falling in and out of consciousness, she finally woke up to a certain Principal Nezu. "Hello," he greeted her. "Hello. Where am I?" Kazumi replied hesitantly. "You're in UA. My name is Principal Nezu, and this is Recovery Girl." "UA? I'm in Shoto's school?" she thought. "Do you know your name? Do you remember what happened?" Principal Nezu asked. "My name is Sugimoto Hanata. There was a fire in our area. I tried to get out, but I lost consciousness." "You're right. And that's good that your mind is clear, even after being on and off consciousness. Do you have anyone with you? Any family member?" "None. Just my legal guardian." "Well, the fire that broke was big and fast. Good thing one of our pro heroes was in the area and got you out." Principal Nezu did not mention Shoto's participation in the narrative, because honestly, he didn't know either. Recovery Girl intentionally left that part out to avoid further questions. So Principal Nezu continued. "Now, perhaps, for us to be able to move forward, I will need to give an explanation of this matter. But bear with me, young one, because I could not really provide full details. I could only disclose information that is confirmed. So, expect that my explanation will be brief and may lead you to ask more questions to which I do not have any answers for." The Hero Commission formed Project Flower with your name in the middle of it. They have reasons to believe that your family may be related to some unlawful activities, and that you were likely being used for their deeds, without you even knowing it. Kazumi felt her heart pound. So even after all the hiding and the running, it turned out she was still being followed by the shadows of her past. And worst, her grandfather didn't seem like a low-key criminal if a higher authority is even investigating him. But the reports provided by our very young hero agent assigned to you was very helpful in assessing your situation. Principal Nezu continued. The reports said that you are very smart and independent, and will be in no way manipulated in any illegal acts unknowingly. Kazumi had questions, but she waited patiently for him to finish. Our legal team has also talked to your guardian. Unfortunately, she is not claiming you. Kazumi swallowed. Of course, why would that woman acknowledge me now? I'm jobless. She closed her eyes and tried to think. Well, I can just be sent to the system if no one claims me. She knows the process well. If she gets in the orphanage, she could escape from there. Hopefully it's the cheap ones, so security will be low. In fact, they would be happy to feed one less child. But Principal Nezu replied, Oh, of course we can't let that happen. Although I will be honest with you, we never thought that you would end up here in UA. It is unprecedented that we ever include our mission subjects with any of the project details. Things are always confidential. But alas, here we are. But I was thinking that the fire in your guardian renouncing her responsibility is a stroke of serendipity, because now we could finally look after you without making it forced. Kazumi couldn't believe it. Things are happening way too fast. Well, I don't need anyone to look after me. I know. You are very capable living alone. But we could provide you a good education and a safe place to stay. So a no from you will be a very foolish decision. He was right. This is a lifetime opportunity, a chance to turn her life in a different direction. They know about your family history and they are willing to provide you a safe haven, and don't forget, a free education. Kazumi looked at both of them. They both seemed very kind and sincere. Recovery Girl must have sensed her stress.
Oh, you poor little darling.
You have nothing to worry about being here at UA, my dear. As soon as you're 100% healed, you could go around the campus already, she said. And you're not going to be a prisoner. With all the reports received for Project Flower, it is even safe for you to go out of campus. Just stay as vigilant as you are. Keeping me updated of your whereabouts would also help give me peace of mind. Why are they so nice? Kazumi thought. Lastly, since you've already started with a lot of names, it is best we give you a new one, for the purposes that you used in hiding your footprints until we are able to resolve this issue wherein you don't have to run away anymore. But I haven't said yes yet, Kazumi replied. But Principal Nezu smiled at her gently. Again, you are a very smart girl. You know that the answer to this offer is a yes. She stared at the two of them, then she suddenly thought of the young hero mentioned by Principal Nezu. She knotted her eyebrow as she tried to piece everything one by one. You said a young hero was assigned to me? Principal Nezu and Recovery Girl side-glanced at each other, as if hoping she didn't ask. But he answered, Yes. I guess since you are laying down all the cards for this project, it is inevitable to talk about that part. Young Todoroki Shoto was assigned for the Phase 1 of Project Flower. For a moment, everything just froze for Kazumi as she tried to absorb what he just said. But he's just a student. She tried to reason, hoping she was hearing him wrong. True, an extraordinary one at that, but that's not what she really wanted to hear. Kazumi's head suddenly ached again as she tried to process everything. Now, out of everything he said, why did that news have the biggest effect on her? I'm Shoto's mission? All this time? I'm a project? Somehow her mind focused on that. Her mind stopped at the fact that her relationship with Shoto was... She could not even think of a word to use. She felt more suffocated now compared to when she was trapped in the fire. She was more disoriented now as flashes of all her moments with Shoto came to her head. No, this can't be happening. She wanted to get out. She needed to get out. Why don't you rest now and think about all these things later? I know it's too much information. We are sorry, but we wanted to be transparent to you if we want you to stay with us, Recovery Girl said gently. Kazumi just nodded. Honestly, she was already going to accept the offer. Everything she owned, every money she saved, they are all ashes now. It was just the part of Shoto being undercover that made everything flipped. Her head started to throb again, and she felt really dizzy, and her stomach began to growl. Before long, she fell unconscious again. As soon as she regained consciousness, her thoughts were filled with Shoto and all the things they did together. She wanted to lose consciousness again, because it hurt so much. Maybe it's a good thing that her metal box got burned. Despite spending only a year with him, more than half of its contents were about him. But now, they were all burned to ashes. And maybe that's what she should do with the memories of him. She wanted to cry. She wanted to shout. She wanted for tears to fall down her cheeks. But nothing came out of her eyes. Her heart felt so tight just thinking of him. He was just a dream, and now it was time to wake up. She never meant anything to him. She was a mission he needed to accomplish. All those warm smiles, those soft looks, they were all for show. Damn, he would make a good hero. She was too clouded with her feelings towards him that she never saw it coming. No wonder he stopped replying to her. Principal Nezu said that right after the Camino incident, He was already taken off the project. April, first day of school. Kazumi took the offer because even if Principal Netsu sounded like she had an option, she really didn't. It was a done deal when they were telling her about it. It took her a while to get used to her new look. She was wearing a skirt as part of the UA uniform. Her hair reached her elbow and now back to its original color of silver white. Recovery girl said she didn't know how long her original hair was, so she let it grow while she was healing her, and just let Kazumi cut it to her preference. Would he even recognize me? I look totally different now. I could not even recognize myself. Her dorm mates and classmates were all very nice. She was introduced to them as Imai Ayaka, a transfer student from Hokkaido. Some of them have quirks, but around 5 of them were quirkless. As soon as the lunch bell rang on the first day of school, her female classmates started running to the ground floor. She decided to wait in the classroom because even the girls from other classes were rushing along the hallway. What's up with all this? Is there a fire drill or something? Kazumi asked her female seatmate. Fire drill? No, but quite close. Come here. She pulled Kazumi towards the open hallway that was overlooking the open ground floor. They stood from where the stairs landed and where most hero students go down from since they were only situated on the second floor. They almost never rode the elevator going up and down their classrooms. See all the girls out there hanging out by the pathway from the stairs? Her classmate pointed out. That is a mix of first, second, and third years. It's extra plenty today because it's the first day of school. They all ran down there to wait. Wait for what? Wait for the class 2A boys. But majority of them were waiting for Todoroki Shoto. I mean, let's admit it. First, he's smart. Second, his skill level is so badass. He is actually eyed as one of UA's future big three. Then third, he is hot as his fire quirk. And fourth, his lineage came from the number one hero, Endeavor. His father is Endeavor? Kazumi felt so stupid. Not only did she miss out that his mother was room 315, and now she missed out that his father was Endeavor. I know, right? He's the total package. So obviously, he's the cream of the crop. Girls drool over him. But if one thinks about it, probably less than 10% of the whole UA female population would ever catch his attention. Finally, she saw all the girls at the ground floor change their body languages. Mostly started to fix their hairs. Others gave side looks from the stairs below them. Her classmate rested her elbow on the solid concrete balcony and placed her chin on her hand and said dreamily, "Here he comes." She was right. A few seconds after, she saw a group of students appearing from under her. They looked like they were from one class as they were grouped and were talking casually amongst themselves. Towards the end of the group, she saw him walking. His red and white hair popped from the crowd. She watched his back as he walked slowly, getting a bit farther and farther away from her. Her heart started to ache again so bad. It hurt more now that she was finally seeing him again after the scary incident in Camino. Then, as if he felt that someone was watching him from the back, he turned his head and looked up at the balcony where Kazumi was standing, staring at him. Whoa! Why is he looking at us? Her classmate stood up straight and took a step back as Shoto looked directly at them. Their eyes locked for a few seconds. Kazumi knew he recognized her despite the change in her looks. And even though he was very far away, she was very certain that he looked at her with soft eyes, like there was regret and longingness. Could it be? Could he had feelings for her despite being undercover for Project Flower? Her heart suddenly fluttered. It is possible, right? That maybe even while he did his hero work, that perhaps it had been real for him too? A flicker of hope suddenly entered her mind. The whole afternoon, Kazumi debated on confronting Shoto. They did share a year of memories together. Maybe it's not too far off to hope that somehow it meant even just a little to him. But she was afraid. All this time she was determined to just avoid him. But seeing him again in the flesh, she just could not sit still. Maybe for her to have a closure and to move on, she needed to hear some things from him. Despite being unsure of what to say, she decided to go to his dorm that night. "Hello," she greeted, as soon as his yellow-haired classmate with a lightning opened the door. "Oh, hi there, princess!" Kaminari greeted and stared at her. This is the first time he had seen her. Must be a freshman, because he surely would not miss a gal as pretty as her, with that shiny silver hair and red eyes.
Look at those big, beautiful eyes. Oh man, she's so cute though. This is terrible. I'm gonna have to ask this girl out sometime.
"I'm looking for Shoto." Shoto? He was evidently surprised at the familiarity of her calling him by his first name. He cannot even think of anyone in class calling him Shoto, unless during hero works, because that was his hero name. But this girl was not calling him Shoto as a hero, but as someone close. "Yes, Todoroki Shoto. This is class 2A, right?" Hang on a second." Kaminari closed the door and ran to the living room where the rest of the class was. "What's wrong, man? You look freaked out," Kirishima said. There's someone at the door. It's a girl."
What in the heck?
Mineta stood up, ready to run towards the door, but Kaminari caught him by the collar. "Yes, and she's looking for Shoto." Sero, Kirishima, and Mineta ran to the window to investigate. Mina and Hagakure joined them.
Everyone stop talking and take your seats!
Ida told them and went to reopen the door where Kazumi was waiting. "Hello, I'm looking for Shoto." "My apologies, but Todoroki-kun is not here," he replied while Shoto's classmate eavesdropped near the doorway. "I see. You think he'll be back soon?" Ida rubbed his temple as he tried to compute how long Shoto will gone. "Oh, he's here." He then stared past her, looking at the incoming Shoto who stopped a few meters away after seeing Kazumi. Shoto knew he would need to face Kazumi sooner or later, so seeing her here was not a surprise. He watched Ida close the door and pulled his onlooking classmates from the windows and shut the curtains. Kazumi walked slowly towards him. "Hello," she greeted, but she felt a shiver down her spine when she looked up to him. His eyes were cold and distant. She suddenly thought that she might have just imagined the soft eyes when she was in the balcony. Maybe this was a wrong decision. Maybe she should have stuck with just avoiding him. But there was no turning back now. "Professor Nezu told me about Project Flower." She waited for a reply, but nothing came. His face remained emotionless. So she took a deep breath and continued. "I just need to ask you something." The silence was so long. Kazumi's heart was beating so fast. She was not sure if she could even continue, if she was even ready to hear his answer. His silence was so deafening. He was so still. His breathing was so steady. The whole time, was it all just hero work for you?
Yes.
His answer was so swift and unfaltered. It was like a bullet going through her heart. She didn't have the time to dodge it at all. "I see. I was told phase 1 was completed before the fire. Is that why you never called back after Camino?"
That's true.
His second reply was just as swift, and that second bullet ripped her heart as it finally confirmed all her thoughts while she was still at the clinic. Kazumi then lowered her eyes. She could no longer look at him, being so remote and uncaring. He was even worse than the first time she met him. She smiled sadly, thinking back on their first walk under the rain. "I always wondered, why a boy like you would ever spend time with someone like me." being nice and funny and warm. How could I be so childish, thinking it was fate when you saw me biking in the rain? That was when Project Flower started rolling, right? Before that, all our meetings had been a disaster. Yet all of a sudden, you walked with me. I should have questioned it. But I didn't. Because it was such a beautiful rainy day for me. For the last 5 years, Kazumi tried so hard to cry, to free her of so many locked emotions, but the tears never came. Yet today, just when she needed to show that she was fine, that she was strong, for the first time in 5 years, her eyes burned. She didn't want him to see her cry. He didn't need to see how hurt she was. Because it was not his fault. It was not his choice that she was the mission. He just did what he needed to do. But it was her choice to fall for him. And just as the tears were about to fall, she bent down on her waist and bowed so low, making sure to cover her face from him, and just let the tears fall to the ground. She couldn't speak for a few seconds, and she tried to keep her sobbing really quiet. Still bowed down, she said as calmly as she could, "I'm sorry for being such a trouble. For making you listen to many dumb stories and do silly things. I will do my best not to get in your way in school." Before she could say anything more, she heard Shoto say,
I don't care what you do.
He then walked past her and went straight inside to his dorm building. She had never felt so much pain in her heart. All the while she thought she could not cry because nothing can hurt her anymore. She wanted so much to reach out and beg him not to go.
Hoping they turn back. Don't go. Please don't go. Tap those brakes, throwing in parts, watching you leave, breaking my heart. So don't leave. Be with me.
Damn it.
She cried. She never cried. Shoto gritted his teeth and clenched his fist so hard to prevent him from touching her. He felt her pain so much. When he walked past her, he almost reached out. He wanted to cry with her, but he just continued walking. He didn't stop until he reached the safety of his own room. And there, he dropped on his knees and cried. Is this right? Does having feelings for her make me weak? Did I let my emotions cloud my reports? What will my father think of me now, crying over some girl?
You're acting disgracefully, Shoto.
And not just any girl, but someone who I should have shown most restraint to. She is a sign of his weakness, and he must get rid of all that's going to make him farther away from being the strongest. He had so much to prove to his father.
I simply cannot afford to fail.
Just leaving you don't feel